In Plymouth Island, Captain Bill takes out his ship, the Serenity, every day to try to catch a legendary tuna fish that he named Justice. His obsession with this fish is so extreme that it gets in the way of his business. When Justice takes the bait, instead of passing the rod to the tourist that paid for a fishing trip, Bill tries to fish it himself, ignoring the advice of his sailor Duke. One morning, Bill goes as far as threatening tourists with his knife for trying to take the rod from him, causing them to refuse to pay for the trip. The worst part is, after lots of waiting patiently and struggling with the line, Justice escapes anyway. This whole fiasco is watched from the shore by Red, who is so desperate to reach Bill that he crosses the water while wearing a suit just to come closer, yet he also fails to be noticed. After the trip is over, the tourists leave without paying. Duke's worried that he wouldn't get paid today, but Dill knows how to get the money. He visits his friend Constance, and after having some fun together, she lends him the money he needs. Bill takes the chance to ask her about her son because he considering fighting and replacing Duke. After work, Bill goes for a drink at Jack's bar, then visit Duke to pay him any client. They are just going after Justice. Duke thinks it irresponsible to waste gas on a leisure trip when they are short on cash, but Dill doesn't care. He saw Justice today, which means it near, so they must try again. In the evening, Bill returns home, and while drinking, he talks to the memory of his son, apologizing for not failing to catch the fish again. At the same time, Bill remembers the day he used to spend his kid fishing with his son Patrick, and at his mother's home, finding pictures of the dad going through the same memories. The next morning, Bill Dreyfus Duke go on another trip to find Justice, but do not even get to see the fish. So when they come back to the island, Bill accuse Duke of making him bad luck. Ever since his wife died, Duke gets fired and leaves, and neither men notice Constance watching from her window. In the evening, Dill goes to the drink at Jack's, who thinks Dill should see a therapist, but his advice is ignored. Their conversation is suddenly interrupted by Karen, Dill's ex-wife, who hasn't seen in years. Karen calls Dill John and asks her for a private place to talk. Dill takes Karen to his boat while once again Constance watches from her window. Karen admits that Dill was right. Her new husband kept on drinking and became violent, hitting both her and Patrick. Dick tells her to get a divorce, but she can't. Her husband is a powerful man with many connections and wouldn't let her escape. Whenever they fight, Patrick gets scared and hides in his room, keeping himself distracted. Dill helps. Her husband will be joining her on the island soon, and she wants to organize a trip on his boat. She willing to pay $10 million if Dill gets her husband drink during the trip and throws him to the shark. Dill can't believe what he's hearing this and kicks Karen out before sailing away, not noticing Reed running towards the shore and missing him again. When Dill returns home in the morning with lots of fish to sell, Constance is there waiting for him. She wants to know more about him, but still he refuses to answer her question and goes for a swim at sea instead. As soon as he falls into the ocean, Dill begins hearing voices. Karen's husband yelling at her and Patrick telling him there's something he needs him to do. You also see Patrick swimming with him, but when he tries to reach out to him, Dill's wake up at his home stable and touches the wet surface at the same time. Patrick is in his room, coming out from under the covers after playing his video game and finding some spilled water on his desk as well. Bill is shaken by the vision he had in the street and wonders aloud if his son is out there. That day, Karen's husband Frank arrives at the island. He wastes no time and joins Karen in the hotel room, asking her to loose her robe so he can inspect her body. Frank finds a scratch on Karen's leg and not liking what it may imply, he takes off his belt to punish her. Meanwhile, Bill goes to to Lord's fishing store to pay her for what he owes and get some new hooks. Louis tells him everyone on the island knows about Karen and the ways Frank has been hitting her. She also informed him a man called Reed is looking for him, but Dale leaves without paying any attention. When Dale make it to his boat, Frank and Karen are there, and Karen calls him Mr. Dale instead of John because Frank doesn't know who he really is. Frank complains about Dale's refusal to take him on a fishing trip, so Dale turns them down again by using his lack of sailor as an excuse, since taking tourists without money is against the regulation. However, Frank thinks everyone has a price and promises to return the next day at 7 a.m. to go on that trip. He also tells Duke to be there for him, and he shows him the gun he carries with him before leaving. Not caring about Frank, Bill goes sailing to look for justice again. Once more, Reed arrives and they walk too late and misses Dill, but when he looks at his watch, he notices something is wrong. There appears to be a 20-second discrepancy in his allotted schedule. Dill doesn't find justice today either, but he does get some good catches to sell at the market. When he comes back, then he spends the night with Constance, who insists on asking about parents and tells him he needs to choose between saving the lady or catching the tuna in his head. Afterward, Duke goes to the market where he is approached by Duke, who has heard the gossip about Frank willing to pay 10 grams for the fishing trip he joined. He points out they really need the money he needs to help his grandson. His strategy needs an overhaul, and Duke has learned from Constant that he was fired out of pity, which he hates. This is a very unique opportunity that they can't miss. So they will accept to take Frank on the trip under the condition Duke keeps an eye on his captain to deliver him from temptation. The two of them go to the docks, where once again Frank and Karen are already waiting. Bill talks to Karen in private to inform her he will only take Frank fishing and nothing else. To try to change his mind, Karen describes the way Frank hurts Patrick. She also tells him she knows Bill talks to Patrick all the time and that Patrick can hear him through his computer screen because they are connected. Bill ignores Karen's request and goes on the trip with Duke and Frank. While fishing, Frank tries to chit-chat with them and eventually land on the subject of his stepson. He calls Patrick creepy and complains because the boy would come on to play sports with him, preferring his computer instead. Frank thought Patrick was involved in something illegal on the dark web, but actually he just playing a fishing video game. Patrick told Frank that if he didn't catch fish all day, he would find a way to kill him, and Dill surprised himself by finishing that sentence along with the Frank. They also talk about the fact there aren't any cops on the island, but that conversation is interrupted when a shark takes their bait. Frank tries to reel the shark in and slip on the deck, but Dill doesn't give in to the temptation, so between him and Duke, they help Frank catch the shark. Karen is disappointed to see them come back with her husband, and while Frank leaves to watch, he approaches Dill to pay him and tries to convince him to change his mind again, since Frank will want to fish again tomorrow. Duke overhears Karen's telling Bill that this was Patrick's idea and that their son needs him to do this because he wants justice. But before the conversation goes further, Franks come back and takes Karen's away. A storm appears on the horizon. It is watched by Reed at the docks while Duke demands Duke to explain what the temptation is all about. Bill takes Duke to a bar and tells him the whole story. He used to be a soldier named John, but when he came back from war, his mind was too damaged and Karen left him for Frank. So Bill thinks he never truly came back. When he hears about the 10 million offer, Duke reminds Bill he must catch the fish in his mind, but not kill a man. After Duke is gone, Bill goes to his boat to do some thinking in the rain. Suddenly he begins hearing Patrick's voice calling out for him while Constance watches from the window. At that moment, Karen shows up to show Dill hasn't gotten rid of the ring he gifted her because she never stopped thinking about him. Then she kisses him, so Dill finally gives in and accepts to kill Frank in the morning. But Karen must bring Patrick to him in the exchange. Karen accepts and tells him she is still the same girl he fell in love with. So Dill ends up getting busy with her right there on the board and notices the scars Frank left on her back. With prompted Karen to point out they are both damaged in different ways. As soon as they are done, Dill declares he beat Frank and kicks Karen out. Afterward, Dill starts talking to Patrick since supposedly he can hear him and promises his son he will do this for him so he can finally step outside. When Dill returns home, he finds Reed waiting for him, who introduces himself as a salesman for a fishing supply company. Dill doesn't understand why Reed has come at 2:30 in the morning for a sale. So Reed explained he tried during the day already and missed him every time. He also said he already knows Bill has a big day tomorrow because he knows almost everything about him. In his suitcase, Reed has the newest sonic fish finder and Bill can have it for 1 week as a trial. The finder will be particularly useful tomorrow and Reed is sure it will help Bill catch the fish because he is the rules. Bill doesn't understand what that means and gets more shocked when Reed asks him to catch the fish, but not to kill that man. So he threatens Reed with his life until he explains why he knows so much. While Patrick continues to play on his computer, Reed explains he's only playing his part of the game because that's what playing on Island is really is, just a game with many options. And the creator favorite is fishing. The rule is you have to go out to catch a particular fish, and that rule is Bill's compulsion. But it seems he's changing things from fishing to killing a man. The rules say that nobody dies on Plymouth Island. As representative of the existing program, he wonders why the creator has changed the rules. Suddenly, he will wake up in his bed earlier than usual and realizes he isn't allowed to move until the alarm clock rings. Thinking about the talk with Ray, he talks out a couple of maps and notices they all show the same thing. Plymouth Island is in the middle of nothing. After a quick swim, Bill takes his truck to the middle of the road to try to talk to Patrick, saying he will kill Frank and admitting he doesn't even remember how he got to this island. But he still remembers his fishing days with his son. He came back mad and from work, and that's why he thinks Patrick made Bill mad to catch the fish here. Sometimes Bill has vision of himself dead on the sand, but before he can reach a conclusion about their meaning, his monologue is interrupted by Constance's son Samson. Bill has always thought Samson was lucky, so he considers his presence a good sign. But he still refuses to give him the job because the rules have changed. Afterward, he goes to see Lois, who offers him some special news that Reed dropped at the trial. Deal asks some weird philosophical question, but Louis doesn't know how to answer them. Next, Bill uses Reed card to call his company and confirming he is real, but he quickly hangs up after leaving a quick message for him saying thank you. On in his way to the boat, Bill bumps into Jack and asks the philosophical question again, but the Jack doesn't know how to answer them either, confirming they are NPC in his room at home. Patrick takes out his father's knife from a box at the hotel on the island. Karen wakes up to find bleeding Frank in the bathroom because someone has attacked him. The explanation for this isn't in the boat. Duke is waiting for Bill to tell him he paid a thug to break Frank's hand. This way he is keeping Bill away from temptation. Furious, Bill kicks Duke out of his boat. He is advised to see a doctor. After going to Jack's to get some alcohol, Bill arrives back and comes across Reed, who tells him he isn't crazy because they are disturbed dreams are made of. The only thing Reed doesn't know who made this game, but Bill does know. Patrick did. It was his sons that created this game, wishing to have his dad back and to kill the man that hurts him. Meanwhile, Karen comes up with a plan. She refuses to miss this chance. So she wraps Frank's wound and convinces him he is still strong enough to go fishing. She also keeps giving him alcohol for the pain, so he getting pretty drunk. He knows this is going on and tells Bill about it because his new compulsion is killing Frank. So that's the new rule. He should help. Bill rushes back to the boat and meets with Karen, who promises she got rid of Frank's gun while Constance and Bill watches them from afar. The boat takes off in the boat, and while Bill is getting everything ready for fish, he's shocked to find Samson has stowed away. We can't just push Frank into the ocean with the boys watching. But luckily a solution appears in front of them in the form of Justice taking the bait. Bill remembers he must choose between the fish and the lady. So he gives the rod to Frank, who is too weak to handle such a dangerous animal, and is pulled into the water by Justice, making it look like an accident. At the same time, Patrick hears Frank yell at Karen, so he leaves his room with his father's knife, only to return a moment later with a blood on his hand. The news of Patrick killing Frank soon appears on every channel in the country. The story covers Karen's explanation of self-defense against Frank's abuse, and that's Patrick's real father had died during the war. Since the murder, Patrick hasn't said a word and is withdrawn into himself. On the island, Karen says it's true, both she and Patrick still love Bill, and one day he will be able to unite with his son. After Karen disappears, Bill picks up a ringing public phone and talks to Patrick, who promises he will change the game to see him. Patrick is sitting inside a cell and suddenly smiles as the environment around Bill begins changing. Second later, Patrick appears on the island to unite with the Bill, and now father and son can go fishing together again.